Hello, Batties and Ghouls. I have a special minor spoiler review for you today for my most highly anticipated high fantasy novel of the year, and that's Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. So thank you so much, Nat Galley and Saga Press, for providing me with an arc in exchange for a fair and honest review. But let's get into the meat of the review and what the story is about. The story follows three main points of view. There's a disgraced sea captain, a mysterious blind man, and a sun priest. So one day, the sea captain named Zalia, she's drunk, she's imprisoned in jail for disorderly conduct and assault. So a rich merchant comes along and offers her a deal. He says if she agrees to transport cargo in time for the solar eclipse to the holy city, he'll spring her out of jail. She agrees, only she gets more than she bargained for because the cargo is a mysterious blind man with a destiny. And then lastly, there's also the sun priest Naranpa, who is experiencing civil unrest because there's this growing crow cult of fanatics who are awaiting their god's rebirth and return during the solar eclipse. And meanwhile, she's also dealing with discrimination and social politics because she is from a impoverished city called the Coyotes Maw. And then gradually all the storylines converge in time for the convergence, and pun intended there. And for me, I think the most interesting aspect of this book is its unique world building and setting, and it's set in the Pre-Columbian Americas, and I haven't seen that done before in fiction. If you have, like even in high fantasy short stories, let me know. And for me, I will say I am a Tolkien fanatic. I love Tolkien, and I even studied I studied it in college, and it's near and dear to my heart. But I've read so many pseudo-European settings that after a while, reading like a lot of Tolkien knockoffs, it gets tiring. So this book, to me, having a setting for the Americas, that's super cool to me. And the author really did that intentionally. Like, she wrote in her acknowledgments that she wanted to do something in a non-pseudo-European setting, and she wanted to show that the pre-Columbian Americas, they were advanced and civilized. And she goes on to talk about how she researched ancient Mayan mariner, the Navy water aquatic related word. Sorry if I'm at a loss for words there. Mariner techniques, I think. Anyway, she showcases this in the character of Zalia, the sea captain, and for me, it was probably this specific scene, besides the opening, is amazing and gripping and visceral, and whoa, it gets me on board. But my other favorite moment was where Zalia was tracing in the palm of the blind man's hand constellations and talking about how she uses celestial navigation to navigate on the ocean. And not only was it a cool, like, bonding moment for those two characters, it's also a wonderful, like, world building moment because constellations, even in real life, they're based off of mythology. So that's a cool way to integrate world building and creating like a cool character moment. And I'm a sucker for astrology and astronomy, so I'm all about that. In fact, I wish there was actually more, because we do get like explanations for magical rituals, and we do get like, we're told, we're not shown, that the sun priests, they maintain order they maintain the calendar by predicting when people should like do their crops and all that, but we don't see the instruments or the technology they use. And I'm a history buff nerd, and there's so much cool stuff about like the Mayan calendar for how they predict things. I would have liked to have seen that shown. And this kind of brings up my next point about like I wish the ideology and beliefs of the sun priest had been established more. So there's this one scene with Naranpa, the main sun priest, where she's like, witchcraft! And that's like 2/3 of the way through. And I wish that had been established earlier, like science versus the occult, so I could understand why the sun priests were so threatened by the crow cult growing and why they hate any form of like mysticism. But we get that like 2/3 of the way through, and if that's a central conflict, it could have been mentioned in passing earlier. So just like having them use their scientific instruments and getting more of their beliefs fleshed out and like mentioned somehow in dialogue or in, what's it called? Like, not info dumping. Exposition. I am so sorry. I'm an English major, but like my brain and understanding vocabulary today is not happening. I'm trying. But yeah, like just more exposition to flesh out the beliefs of the sun priests, because there's a lot of political intrigue in this book. But if we understand the politics more, I would have felt more tension and stakes. But overall, it was an interesting setting. It had political intrigue and mystery. I just wish that the author had taken the concept of like a pre-Columbian high-tech, almost, I call it steampunk / arcane punk. I wish she had taken that idea, amped it up.
Roar! Jesus Christ, Aaron, fine! Fuck! Alright! Roar!
And like shown us like a steampunky Aztec Mayan story. That would have been awesome. Like, here it is. So Monstrous is Mongolian steampunk. I wish it had kind of gone that route, like done a hybrid of science fiction and fantasy with arcane punk. That's what I kind of personally had wished. But overall, I think if you love stories about gods and mysticism with political intrigue, like, I would say if you like the 100,000 Kingdoms and that kind of deal in high fantasy, I think you'll like this book as well. If you have any more recommendations for non-European fantasies, let me know down below. If you've already picked this book up or if you plan on reading it, let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the flip side. See ya!